Hi, I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for over 40 years. I'm going through the text again this year, asking Jesus to clarify for me, and then I write from that clarity. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. We're reading from A Course in Miracles, Chapter 11, Section 2, The Invitation to Healing. And today we're going to read paragraph 4. Paragraph 4 tells us, healing is a sign that you want to make whole. And this willingness opens your ears to the voice of the Holy Spirit, whose message is wholeness. We will enable you to go far beyond the healing you would undertake. For beside your small willingness to make whole, he will lay his own complete will and make yours whole. What can the Son of God not accomplish with the fatherhood of God in him? And yet the invitation must come from you, for you have surely learned that whom you invite as your guest will abide with you. Well, I've absolutely learned that. If I invite the ego as my guest, it will abide with me and or bring all sorts of bad advice with it. Here's a story from an older journal when I was still working. In it, I share what was happening and how I dealt with it. So yesterday was miserable in a way, but wonderful in another way. Here's what happened. First, I got an ear infection and went to the doctor for magic. When I asked why this showed up, I haven't needed antibiotics in a very long time. I thought that lately I've been very resistant to hearing what is happening in the classroom that is my workplace. So before I continue, I want to just share again. I know I've shared this before, but I want to share again something from the psychotherapy section of the course, in which he says, sickness takes many forms, and so does unforgiveness. The forms of one but reproduce the forms of the other, for they are the same illusion. So closely is one translated into the other that a careful study of the form a sickness takes will point quite clearly to the form of unforgiveness that it represents. So that's why I wanted to watch my mind and find out why I was getting an infection in my ear. Okay, so what I noticed is there was a lot of conflict in the workplace. And while I watched my mind and asked for healing, I also wished I did not have to be there hearing that. That's not a very helpful prayer because nothing is healed. I was listening to the ego, which often suggests I run, and thus I was failing to listen to the voice for God. Because you can't hear both at the same time, can you? And so it goes on further to say, yet seeing this will not effect a cure. That is achieved by only one recognition that only forgiveness heals an unforgiveness, and only an unforgiveness can possibly give rise to sickness of any kind. So I know, or at least I have an idea that perhaps my desire not to hear was causing the problem with my hearing. And also know that that's handy to know because I can watch for that now, but it won't heal it. I have to forgive the unforgiveness. So I decided to look very closely at what was going on and how I was responding to the situation. Then I expressed my small willingness to see things differently. I did this in two ways. One, by feeling what I felt without aborting that feeling when it got uncomfortable, and the other by using lesson 325 to get to the source of what was happening. And here's how it unfolded. I thought about my boss giving me another job to do just as I was walking out. I noticed I felt discouraged, and I noticed I wanted to see others wrong for this. So I asked my mind to be healed of the belief that I'm unfairly treated. This morning, my willingness to have only the thoughts I think with God in my mind was great. So I did not push it away as a done deal when I asked for healing. I thought about the extra job and let my feelings flow freely. It made me just want to sit down and cry. I wanted to run away. Okay, that needed more work. So I asked Jesus what I should do now. He told me to use lesson 325 to see how this situation occurred in my life. I know that this is my story. I write the script, but that concept gets lost when I let the ego run things. I could see why this would be helpful at this time. So here's the part of the lesson I used. All things I think I see reflect ideas. This is the salvation's keynote. What I see reflects a process in my mind, which starts with my idea of what I want. From there, the mind makes up an image of the thing the mind desires, judges valuable, and therefore seeks to find. These images are then projected outward, looked upon, esteemed as real, and guarded as one's own. From insane wishes comes an insane world. From judgment comes a world condemned. And from forgiving thoughts, a gentle world comes forth with mercy for the Holy Son of God, to offer him a kindly home where he can rest a while before he journeys on and help his brothers walk ahead with him and find the way to heaven and to God. So I took the idea that I was overburdened at work and that work has become a place I tried to avoid because of the level of conflict and traced down how this happened using this lesson. One thing I know right from the start, even if I avoid the knowledge sometimes, is that there is nothing in my world that I did not want. See lesson 152, the power of decision, which reminds us of that. So now I'm only looking to see how this situation wound up in my script. What was I trying to do? What I see reflects a process in my mind. No matter who seems to be causing the conflict, how far I try to distance myself from that one, no matter who seems to be doing things to me, what I see is a reflection of a process going on in my mind. The ball is back in my court, which starts with my idea of what I want. This is so important. I think it should have been capitalized, italicized, quote marks around it, and an exclamation point behind it. Whatever is going on in my world is something I want. It seems crazy and ridiculous, but Jesus is someone I can trust, and certainly I cannot trust the ego. So I'm going along with this. I remind myself that he started this paragraph by telling me this is the keynote to salvation. So I had an idea of what I wanted, and using a process in my mind, I got that idea into the world. How did I do this? Well, he tells us from there, the mind makes up an image of the thing the mind desires. Wait, the thing I see and experience in the world is the image I made up. Let's back up and see what it was I desired. Well, it is helpful that I have the image to look at. I'm in a situation where there's a, a lot of conflict, and I seem to be pulled into it on a regular basis. I also seem to have more to do than I'm willing to do. So what is it that I really desired? From what did I source this image of conflict at work? I got to it by using some of the ideas that Jesus taught me to look out for. First, I tried one of them by saying it out loud. I am being unfairly treated. And I felt a lump in my throat. It is unfair to ask the oldest person here, who has been the busiest person, to do more. So I think that the desire I wanted to picture is that I am unfairly treated. So I made up an image of what this might look like. I could be overburdened at work. That would make a good image of someone being unfairly treated. It would come from someone I don't want to see in a bad light. This would be someone I would regret adding to his own considerable burden. In this way, I would feel more trapped than ever in this image of being unfairly treated. Not only was I given too much work, but unfairly enough, I was left without recourse. Good job so far in making an image that gave me just what I wanted. The second thing I was looking at was the conflict itself. This one was harder for me because I was in real denial about what I wanted from this image. I had that little willingness, though, and Jesus had my back, and the Holy Spirit was adding his will to mine. So I thought about the situation and let myself feel the rage and the guilt, and then I looked at what I hoped to gain from this. I was shown that when the two people involved asked for my input, I felt admired and respected. I felt special. God will not make me special, so I made an image of Myron being very special. The old problem of authorship. Who's my daddy? Is it the ego or is it God? I wanted specialness more than I wanted God. No wonder I didn't want to see that. So that is why the whole story got into my world. It was just another image of specialness. No surprise there. And also he tells us we judge it as valuable and therefore seek to find it. Well, I obviously judged both these desires as valuable since I gave up my peace to have them. I also sought them out. First, I used a process in my mind to give them an image that would convince me they were true. And then I made myself available to them so that I could have the experience. These images are then projected outward, looked upon, esteemed as real, and guarded as one's own. Though I pretend to have no such power, of course I do. I projected these images outwards so that I could have a real experience of being unfairly treated and of being special. Then I looked at the images, called them real, and guarded them. I have been in this experience for too long, and the reason is that I was guarding the process to keep it from my own mind. I was reinforcing this amnesia by making others the guilty party and me the helpless victim. From insane wishes comes an insane world. From judgment comes a world condemned. And this is all that happened. I've been living in an insane world, pretending to be its victim, pretending I had nothing to do with it, when all the time it came from my insane wishes. Then I judged everyone and everything, and so I've made an image of an insane world and condemned it with my judgment. And from forgiving thoughts, a gentle world comes forth with mercy for the Holy Son of God, to offer him a kindly home where he can rest a while before he journeys on, and help his brothers walk ahead with him and find the way to heaven and to God. Well, thank God I have an answer to what I've done and a way to undo it. I can forgive myself and forgive what I've made. I can see the process that made it, take responsibility for it, and allow the Holy Spirit to lay his own complete will next to my small willingness to be healed, and so make mine whole. And after doing this for a number of years, I've become very good at finding the actual problem and forgiving it. Thank you so much for joining me in this reading. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, then please like it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And thanks to you guys who have subscribed recently. I appreciate it so much. I'll be back soon with another reading. See you then.